Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Phoenix Boats, a lifetime member on the Alabama Bass Trail, lifetime sponsor. Just signing on again for another 5 years with the Alabama Bass Trail. That will take us through our first 15 years of operation, and super thankful for those guys and all the support that they lend us throughout the year. Not just financially, but a lot of times just just being there to listen and bounce new ideas off of, and just super thankful for those guys and all they do for bass fishing, not just on the Alabama Bass Trail, but you see them all over the fishing industry, and very, very, very thankful for those guys. For those of you who don't know, I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail, and glad to be your host for this week's podcast. Post ABT 100 on Wheeler Lake, rounding out our season. It is emotional for me. I will not hide from that. Completed our 11th season, fourth season on the ABT 100s in my hometown, which is kind of special. I know I moved from there about 11 weeks ago, but it is still home. I still love going back there, and Wheeler Lake is just a special place. It really is. I won't even get into the statistics of Wheeler Lake, and to see that it's coming back to its glory is really, really cool. So I love that lake. I love everything that goes into the tournament at Wheeler Lake. I love that facility. It's one of the first facilities I ever worked on as far as designing boat ramps and helping cities become a destination for tournament organizations to seek out. And it was just really, it's just always good to go back there. And I think sometimes it's good to revisit your roots, and Wheeler Lake and Ingalls Harbor is certainly my roots. And I certainly love that place. I love that lake, and to see it become the lake that I've known it was for a long time, and to see it play out in our tournaments is pretty special. Leading up to the event was really cool because I got several texts, and from one angler in particular who is typically very critical of Wheeler Lake when we visit. Said that the lake is fishing phenomenal. It's probably the best I've ever seen it, especially in the fall part of the year. I mean, we really have come to expect those middle 20 weights, even 30-pound weights early in the year. But getting into the fall, to be able to see the fish schooled up like they were, and the big wads that they were, and the bait fish that's in the lake, and everything just being just incredible for a fall tournament. And this guy actually said in his text message, he said, I may suck on Saturday, but it will not be the lake's fault. It is incredible right now. So that was good to see. I simply think that also just hearing anglers say on Saturday, had we fished this tournament on Thursday or Friday, you would have seen 10 plus, 20-pound bags. In the fall on Wheeler would have been incredible. The lake is in really good shape. The fish look extremely healthy. Our, fish care guys made that remark. It just was a really good event. So thankful for that. Just a special place. Walt Roberts and Robert Greenberg took home the win and over $25,000 of cold hard cash. 2176 was their winning weight with a 5.01 big fish. That was not the big fish of the tournament, but it was their big fish. And by the way, just for giggles purposes, those were all Wheeler Lake smallmouth bass. So that was very special. And to mention that Robert Greenberg is our first international winner on the Alabama Bass Trail, a title he will always hold. So that's pretty good. I'm excited about listening to them in just a little bit. We're going to have them on, let them talk about their experience on Wheeler Lake. I mean, certainly Walt is no a stranger to success on the Alabama Bass Trail. He's had a win there at Wheeler before. It is a special lake for him, but to be able to fish it with Robert, I'm sure was very special as well. Second place, 2051, Alan Johnson. He went out solo due to the Toyota Series, and I want to touch on that just a little bit. You may have seen us have several anglers that went out solo A lot of that was because of the Toyota Series Championship that would be taking place on Wheeler Lake this coming week. But the guys' official practice started on Saturday, which meant they could only be in the boat with either a family member or someone who was fishing that event. So a number of the anglers either A, didn't fish, like Brent Crow did not fish with Alan Johnson because he was off limits. Alan's not a family member and he's not fishing the Toyota Series. So they could not fish together. Lucas Black could not fish with his partner. Justin Atkins could not fish with his partner. So they were off limits because they had qualified for this event. So, for a couple reasons, I think that's kind of crappy that they couldn't. They worked all year to get here and then they couldn't fish it with their partner. Shame on whoever. And then also, it just created a ton of traffic on the water on Saturday. Some guys gave way to our anglers and said, "Hey, y'all are fishing for money. We're going to back off." Some were not so good. I think Scott Canterbury had some encounters with some people out on the flats that were just absolutely, in my opinion, buttholes. Not that we own the lake, but it is a totally different event when you are fishing for money than when you are just practicing and you have more days left. But that is, as I mentioned on our TikTok live. If you didn't tune into TikTok live, I for some reason decided to do one Friday, and it was crazy popular and crazy busy and all that. But just creates a little havoc that shouldn't be out there on the water at this time of the year, but it did. Um, thank you to the guys who went out there and practiced and gave way to our guys that were fishing for a $25,000 plus money check. And to you guys who didn't do that, shame on you. So, third place, Justin Atkins with 20.44. We watched him on live. We saw him boat an amazing smallmouth. Actually jumped out of the water and he was able to catch it with the net. Still hooked up, but caught it with the net. Pretty incredible. Fourth place, 1902 for Scott Canterbury and Terry Stevens. And then fifth place was 17.01, James Swindle and Paul Ernest. And I was going to give you a rundown of 6th through 10th. You had Bradley Jones, Brooks Scoza. Bradley also went out solo with 1694. Seventh place, Brian Stifler and Bassmaster Elite Series Wesley Gore with 1653. Eighth place, Kelly J., former Bassmaster Elite Series angler Lanier Burton, 1648. Ninth place, Zach Hester and Hunter Billingsley, 1613. And 10th place, Damian Willis and Mark Stewart took 1609. They took home $2,000 for their 10th place finish, an additional $2,500 from Phoenix Payday for being the original owners of their Phoenix. So they took home $4,500 for a 10th place finish. So not bad money there in the Alabama Bass Pro 100 for a $1,000 entry fee, $500 each angler. 20th cut line, that was 1362. And I took a minute and went back and looked at our April results from Wheeler Lake, and a 1362 finish at Wheeler Lake in April would have got you a cool 54th place. So, Wheeler is on fire right now. I would say it's probably the best shape it's been. And I'm really excited about that. We'll talk about Wheeler Lake by the numbers. This is our bait report. We do it each tournament. I pray that all tournament organizations will do this. It is simple. We keep up with it with our software in our weigh-in system as well as at our bump sync. We had 84 teams compete, which was a little shy of what I expected. I expected it would be around 90 teams that would show up. 60 teams weighed in more than one fish. 55 teams weighed in a limit. 294 bass were weighed in, 256 largemouth, 9 spotted bass, and 29 smallmouth. 5 bass weighed in over 5 pounds for a total weight of 787.70. So all in all, a really great tournament, very much in that fall time frame on the Tennessee River. I can't say it enough. It was a great tournament. And we have new champions on the Alabama Bass Trail 100, Walt Roberts and Robert Greenberg. And again, Robert being the first international winner on the Alabama Bass Trail. And we're not going to wait too long before we talk to them. So we're going to take a short break right here. We're going to come back. We're going to hear from Walt and Robert, talk about their win on the Alabama Bass Trail 100. And get Robert's opinion. I know he had a tournament a couple weeks ago over on Gunnersville, the American Bait Works tournament, but we're also going to talk to him about his experience on the Alabama Bass Trail, this being his first year to be out here with us, and see how he feels about the ABT 100. But we'll be back in just a moment. But right now, you'll hear from a couple of our sponsors, and we'll be back with the champs. Y'all stay tuned.
Research and development is more than just time in the shop for us. It's time out here, sweating the details, making boats that work as well in the real world as they do on paper. From our R&D team to our anglers on the water, we have the knowledge and passion to build you the finest fishing platform in the world.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And as I promised, your winners from the ABT 100 on Wheeler Lake, Mr. Walt Roberts, Mr. Robert Greenberg, welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast.
Thank you so much.
I mean, one way to make sure that you get on this podcast is to win an event, and you guys did, and you did it in a big way on Wheeler Lake.
We did. It was a good day. It was a very good day, and it couldn't have been any better. You know, had my partner there, Robert, who we've fished several tournaments together. We haven't been so successful in the 100s, but it worked out really good this time.
Robert, your first time fishing the 100s, you know, you're from Canada. I've already mentioned that you're our first international winner on the Alabama Bass Trail. You'll always have that title as the first international winner on the Alabama Bass Trail. But what's been your impression on the ABT 100 so far?
Well, I realized that, you know, there's a lot of fierce competition. I mean, the people in Alabama, they really know how to fish. And, you know, up in Canada, we're kind of blessed because we don't see the kind of pressure that the lakes down here fish. I remember like my first tournament on Logan Martin last January. I thought I was in Canada when it was 15 degrees Fahrenheit at the start of the tournament. Like I wouldn't do that back home. Like back home, like we've got ice and we have shelters or we have good clothing to go ice fishing in. So fishing in 15-degree weather in January was kind of tough, but it's just awesome. I mean, the anglers are all very friendly. People know that, you know, they're used to, you know, like if you're on a spot, someone else is likely going to join you. And, you know, if you think you're going to have a spot all to yourself, it's not going to happen. And it's just the way it is. And I mean, y'all are used to it down here. So anyways, I love it.
Good. Well, it's good to have you. You know, I talked to y'all on Friday. Y'all had a little appointment that you had to go to early. You had an opening of a location off-site, and you had to travel to that. And you got back, I don't know what, 11, 12 o'clock, I guess, on Friday. But you told me you'd already been out practicing. But Robert, you said something to me that day, and you said you thought it could be a very special day for you and Walt on Wheeler Lake. How confident were you at that point that y'all could win this event?
Are you asking me the question or
yes?
Walt?
No, I was asking you. You're the one that said that to me. It was going to be a special day.
Well, I think Walt, listen, fishing with Walt, it's special in any event because like Walt has a relationship to fishing and boats and the water that people just don't have. I mean, he's got like an intuition. He gets on that boat. He's in his bare feet. He knows where he wants to go. He knows what he wants to do. It's like he's got a second sense. And so as a partner to him, you know, in an area that he's familiar with, that gives me a lot of confidence. Having said that, there's been so many times in my life where I have a great pre-fish, not necessarily catching the fish, but seeing the fish and really looking forward to a Saturday where you think you're going to knock it out of the park and things change. So, you know, you always have that little bit of reticence after a decent pre-fish, you know, that they might not be there or something like that. But this is Alabama. It's different than Canada. Walt's very familiar with, you know, with how the waters behave. We saw that there wasn't going to be a weather change. The wind was going to be a good, you know, I've been told that the northwest wind in Alabama is not a good wind to have, and we weren't going to have that kind of wind or much of a wind at all. So everything really lined up for us to be able to catch some fish. Our pre-fish, you know, we didn't, you know, we caught some fish. The biggest fish I caught in pre-fish was probably a 3 1/4. But that gave me confidence that the fish were there and that the techniques that we wanted to use were going to be good fish catching techniques. So I hope I've answered your question.
You did, you did. Walt, how surprised were you, or were you targeting specifically smallmouth? Were you surprised that your bag was all smallmouth, or was that what you were specifically targeting?
It was what we were specifically targeting, but I was a bit surprised that we didn't catch more spots than we did. During practice, we caught a lot of spotted bass, and that's not generally a good thing when you're targeting the smallmouth. And I found a little deal. It was very obscure. Um, I've been doing it a long time up there. I've been going up there to catch smallmouth a long time, but the way that we usually catch them wasn't working when I got up there. And there was a lot of spotted bass on those spots. And I went in the memory bank and found a few more places to try and rolled up on some pretty good ones the first day I was out there. And kind of put all my eggs in that basket, and we were targeting smallmouth for sure.
Okay, so you say up there. I'm assuming you went north toward the Gunnersville Dam.
We did. We went north. We had quite a ride. I think the first day I told Robert we are going to do that, he asked me if we could find somewhere closer, and I told him no.
Well,
But
it's practice, and you kind of need to practice all of that. The whole scenario, how long it's going to take you, what the conditions are. You kind of do need to practice that. And I think that's what some people may not take into consideration as far as practice. They're so focused on baits and line and reels and all the things and maybe live scope. But really, when you're looking at fishing for $25,000, you've got to take into the ride back. What is all that going to be like? Because you got to get back with those fish. You can't just go catch them. You got to get back with them.
That's correct. It's a gamble, I guess you could say it in some cases to go that far, but it's a gamble you have to take because I just didn't think that we could bust 20 pounds on the lake. I mean, we've done well on the lake, but when I saw they had 3 floodgates open and was going to be some current. Yeah, it said spilling till further notice, and I was hoping further notice was at least Sunday, so it worked out. That's what I really targeted the entire time. Robert had to go back to Florida for a few days, and I was out there by myself and spent a lot of time just kind of, side scanning and looking around and finding some new stuff. So, it worked out. It was a lot of fun, and it worked out really quickly. So Robert had not been to this place where we started. I intentionally didn't go there, and we pulled up, and I made my first cast, and I caught one that was about 2 3/4 pounds, and I put it in live well. And he said, "You're not supposed to catch one on the first cast. It's bad luck." And so I fired back out there, and I caught a 5-pounder the next cast. I said, "I guess we busted that myth. So let's keep fishing."
I was going to say, Robert, did that change your mind at all when the 5-pounder came on?
Yes.
Would have changed my mind as well. Okay, so let's go back. How far was your run? And far as like minutes from
I think it took
Ingalls?
us 37 minutes is what we figured. We were looking at it very closely to make sure we knew when we needed to turn around and come back. And I think to our first spot was 37 minutes. And to our first spot, we went farther up a little bit, but it was good. We ran into a little fog going up there, but not as much as I was thinking we might. So that worked out really good for us. I think down the lake, some guys told me they ran into a little fog, but we were fortunate. We probably ran into a quarter mile of fog, and it was clear the rest of the way.
I mentioned earlier in the podcast about the Toyota Series Championship practice starting on Saturday. Did you encounter a lot of those guys in the area that you were fishing?
There were a lot of those guys up there, but because we were fishing some pretty obscure stuff, we didn't encounter many of them. One spot we did have a bit of a challenge, but it worked out. But yes, I think it was an old bent pole pattern. Somebody see you catch one and they want to come by and see what we're doing. And one of the guys decided he wanted to come to the bow of our boat and throw a rig across it. But
that wasn't Alabama friendly.
No. That person was probably from Tennessee. That person.
Yeah. But it was okay. I mean, we we pushed through it, and it was fine. We had a plan, and we made a plan. We had about 5 spots that we were going to rotate through all day, and that's what we did.
So were you targeting, I know typically in the past when we've seen like Candler, McCollum, Mitch Mitchell go that far up, they're targeting, rocks and kind of rock piles and things like that. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you were targeting?
Yeah, absolutely. It was rock piles. I mean, that's the deal. You can't see them. They're deep. They're in deeper water, but they still create current breaks for the bait to sit in, and that's the whole deal with those smallmouth. That's why you can't catch them as good when there's no current, because they just spread out everywhere, and you're kind of chasing your tail. That's when the live scopers would have beat us, but it just, the conditions worked out. We were finding rock piles. I found a gigantic rock pile I didn't ever knew existed, while I was practicing, which was, I'd passed by it 100 times and I found it, but it was, yeah, it was cool. I mean, they were where they were supposed to be. They really weren't, for me, they weren't farther upriver like sometimes they are. I think it was because they weren't pulling a lot of current through the turbines. They were letting it go out of the spillway, so it spread that current out as it got farther down the river. Farther up the river, the current was confined. So,
Okay.
and I may be wrong about that, but that's in my little pea brain. That's the way I see it.
I love how you said it's not necessarily the rock pile, but it's the current break that it creates that gives those bait fish a place to hang out and kind of gives those bass kind of that ambush point of getting to those feeders. So, talk to me a little bit about baits. I'm not going to ask you specifically because I've learned not to do that.
Well, the good thing is you can ask us specifically, because we're in the bait business, and we're going to tell you the absolute.
Well, I mean,
we'll tell you everything we used.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming bait fuel shirt, bait fuel hat. I'm assuming that had something to do with it. I mean, that has become one of the game changers in the industry right now is bait fuel. So talk a little bit about how what technique you used and what baits that you used.
Go ahead, Robert. He can tell us all about it.
Well, everything we used had bait fuel in it. So if it wasn't a plastic bait, then we would use the stick or the gel, soaking at the gel if we needed to. One of my techniques that I like to use up north in current and rocks is a wacky rig 4-inch ion, black and blue on a little. There's a Japanese hook manufacturer called Zappu, and they have these tiny little weighted hooks. They're actually owner hooks. I've been using them for about 10 years, and you can fish it a number of ways, but the way we're fishing, I basically just threw it ahead of us and let it sort of drift back, just pulling on it slightly to keep a little bit of tension on the line so I could feel a bite. And that was one of the techniques that worked really nicely. With this particular bait, the 4-inch ion, it's manufactured with bait fuel in it. I soak it overnight in more bait fuel, and I also use the injector, our bait fuel injector, to get it right in. So this thing is just covered in bait fuel. And on a tough day, which Saturday was for a lot of people, sometimes bait fuel is not going to make them bite or not bite, but it's going to help your chances. So just that little extra bit, especially if you're a tournament fisherman, you want a little bit of an extra edge. That's what the bait fuel delivers. The other way that we were catching them was we have 2 new baits coming out through NetBait. It's our Hextech series. We launched it at ICAST. There are 6 baits in total. We use 2 of them that our molds are complete, and we're just starting to package them up. One's called the Blip Minnow. That's the bait that Walt was using when he was throwing the swim bait. He was throwing the Blip Minnow exclusively, and that's what he caught the big 5-pounders on.
Okay.
Fish, and they absolutely destroyed it. Walt did a great job of getting them in. There's another one that we've got that I was using also in addition to the Seiko, and that's called our Echo Shad. It's a 3-inch bait, part of the Finesse, the Hextech Finesse series. And they're just killer baits, especially when you're trying to finesse fish.
Well, we've seen anglers forever dip the tails in different color and different things like that, but bait fuel being injectable and being able to use externally on the baits. That's really been a game changer that we've seen not only at the Elite Series, but certainly down in the amateur type fields that we have on the Alabama Bass Trail. So I kind of got a hint that there was some bait fuel used in this win for sure. One question I do have, what time do you think it was when you had your limit that you weighed in?
Robert probably knows exactly because he watches that very closely, but I want to say it was before 8 o'clock. Well, though that we weighed in.
Yeah, the weight that you weighed in.
We called one late in the day, so we left up there somewhere around 2:15, and it's probably 1:30 when we called our last fish.
But you had a limit by 8 o'clock?
Oh yeah, we had 20 pounds probably at 8 o'clock. Yeah.
Hmm. 8:05. That first spot was.
I told you he was looking at it.
Oh, it was very fast.
Oh,
yeah,
that's really awesome. Fast. Yeah, that's awesome. That's all. Well, luckily with 100 boats, you didn't have to endure a 2-hour. Like the ABTs, when you have 225 boats, if you're in that first flight and you take the lead and you've got to wait that entire 2 hours. Luckily, you didn't have to wait that long. And you had a lot of guys, Justin Hamner, you've got Scott Canterbury and everybody on your team, and you're able to hang out with those guys. That was pretty cool, huh?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Was it nerve-wracking at all, Robert?
Well, it wasn't nerve-wracking for me because I missed the last part because I was in taking the truth test.
The truth test.
I can assure you, Kay knows it was nerve-wracking to me because I was waiting on you to get out of that trailer. I was like, holy smoke.
Every time I walk by, he's like, have you heard something? Have you heard something? Have you heard something? Kathy Pierce did the polygraph this week, and she is very thorough. I've heard that from several organizations that have used Kathy, and she's very thorough. Yeah. Robert, I know you live in Canada. You work very closely with Corey Banford over at the Shootout Fishing League. I have to say, I think Corey was the first person to make a post about your win. Like, I think he was watching with bated breath. Like, he was so ready for this tournament to be over, polygraph to be over, and for you guys to be crowned champion. How's that feel to have a buddy like that back home that's watching so intently?
Well, Corey's totally awesome. Like, he's a great guy. He runs a great series. We've become, very good friends, and knowing that he has my back is very comforting. It's all good, Kay.
Yeah.
Like, it's a wonderful feeling to win such a prestigious bass tournament.
Well, I was watching, and I know he was the first person that I saw make a post about it. I have had Corey on the podcast. He and I talk regularly because we have teams that go to that team championship. And I just think he and his wife do such a phenomenal job up there. And I've asked him to come to one of our events and get on the blast-off boat with me so that he can experience an Alabama Bass Trail event. Hopefully he'll do that soon. I also want to say, Wade, Walt, I was standing there when your son was on the phone with you. And the excitement that he had. Talk about that a little bit, because I mean, it's not like he's 10. He's not 10 and getting excited about, this trophy. He's how old?
25.
Talk about that.
And Bailey Boutries, who is our product designer, they were on my back porch watching college football with my wife and all. And I don't know, it was pretty cool. I mean, they were calling me after we weighed in. They were watching it live, and they were all stoked when we weighed in. And then, of course, they were watching intently to make sure that nobody passed us. And when that happened, they went nuts. It's really cool. I mean, I probably had, I don't know how many calls I had on the way home. It took me about 6 hours to get home, and it felt like it took about 2.5 because I was on the phone the whole time.
Yeah.
So it just tells me how popular this series is and how many people watch it. People that, I haven't talked to in years, and you get a call from them, said, man, I was watching it all live, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, the family thing, we have a close family, and we have a close group of people here at the plant. Like, today has been crazy. Everybody's running in here congratulating. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really cool.
Well, one of the things I said on a podcast with Luke Duncan a couple weeks ago is, I don't think, as a tournament organizer, I don't think I can fully know what's going on and fully get the feel from the anglers, the feel from the partners. I mean, American Bait Works is a partner of ours. I don't think you can get that unless you're there, unless you can be there from start to stop. And I mean, I saw y'all on Friday. I was there on Thursday. But don't you feel like that from it's hard to sit back in your office and design baits and think about what the anglers will use unless you're out there in it, like at a tournament like the Alabama Bass Trail. And at the high, I know the elites are the highest level, but we've got elites. We got classic winners, Justin Hamner. We got Forest Wood Cup winners with Justin Atkins. We've got Angler of the Years with Bassmaster Elites with Scott Canterbury. You've got the top guys along with the top amateur guys right there. And I don't know how you stay involved and relevant if you're not putting yourself out there like that.
That's right. And we do. And, we have a thing that when Robert or anybody calls and I might be out on the water, I'm not fishing, I'm product testing.
Field testing.
But no, we have our whole group of people here are fishermen, and we have fishermen from all different levels of fishing, from guiding to fishing professional tournaments to so forth and so on. Everybody loves to fish, and we put a lot of effort and a lot of thought into what we make. But when we go out and we're using our blip minnow, say, that we caught so many fish on, it just kind of validates it, and makes you think, wow, this thing really works, and because you always have it in the back of your mind that, well, did we miss something? Should have we done it this way or that way? But, all the baits that we threw this week in our new series are phenomenal. And, Robert is a 4-inch ion guy, and we know that works, but it was phenomenal too. So, but yeah, we put a lot of thought and effort, but it is nice to validate it by, catching fish.
I think that's a key word, Kay, is it validates what we've got. So I was, one of the things that I was really happy with is we've developed a couple new technique specific rods, and one of the ones that we have a 7'4" medium light HFX rod, and it was, we finally nailed it. We've tried a few times to get a rod to act the way this one does, and it's just for finesse smallmouths, especially lighter tackle. You want a rod that has a lot of bend, and that's gonna just absorb a lot of the fish's runs. And we have that rod now, and I'm so confident fishing it. Especially because smallmouth can be finicky and they can jump and do this and do that, and just having confidence in your product, and winning this tournament on American, whatever it is that we don't have line, and that's about at line or reels, but everything else we make, and just catching it on the stuff that we either have manufactured for us in China, or these plastic baits that are made in Mississippi. It's just a wonderful feeling to be able to win a tournament on stuff that your own company has produced. And in a market like Alabama, where we already have a very strong presence with bait fuel and net bait and scum frog and snag proof, it just it's going to further cement our ability to provide the Alabama and area anglers with products that they want and that work.
Yep. I agree. Well, I love the fact, I will be real honest with you. We've had partners fish with us before, and I'm always a nervous wreck when our partners come fish with us, because you want your team to always perform to their best, but especially when you have a partner that's fishing with you, but I just don't, I just trust our team, and I hope that you've enjoyed your experience with Alabama Bass Trail.
Awesome.
Love the fact that you're able to get out there and catch those smallmouth. I love the fact we had an all smallmouth bag. Everybody guessed it would be a mixed bag, but I'm glad to see it was an all smallmouth bag. I love that for Wheeler Lake. Wheeler Lake's very special to me. Walt, you lived here for a long time. You spent a lot of time on Guntersville, but you took some time to sneak away to Wheeler every so often, and I think that paid off for you big here.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it was my favorite place. I'll be honest with you, I like that more than Guntersville. I love Guntersville, don't get me wrong, but it's just so beautiful down there, and there's big fish, and I love smallmouth. So, it was kind of my place to go to get away, and I did it quite often. So I'm glad I did.
Guys, I mean, 25,000 reasons as to why you would be glad that you did that. $25,000 plus your boat contingency, plus your Garmin contingency. Nice payday on a one-day tournament on the Alabama Bass Trail 100. But something, the money will be spent, I can assure you of that, but something that'll never be taken away is you are an Alabama Bass Trail 100 champion. And that's pretty cool to say. Showcase those trophies everywhere you want to showcase those. I absolutely love those trophies. They're my faves. But congratulations. What a great job.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank y'all for
Appreciate it,
taking
guys.
time today, not only to fish with us, but taking time to do this podcast. I know y'all have lots going on. And Walt, congratulations, and walk around that plant, son, like you own it today. I give you full permission to do that. And Mr. Robert,
sir.
wherever you're
I may have to ask
traveling
Robert
today, be
for that
safe.
permission.
Yeah, I don't carry a lot of weight there, Walt, but I was trying
Well,
to get you a little
well,
help
you do.
there. So
Listen, Walt is the heart and soul of our company, and everybody loves Walt in the company and outside the company. So he's walking around like a proud man, and people enjoy having him there. So it's just
I can
all
tell you
good.
this, if you don't believe that, go back and watch live and watch the kind comments that was said about you guys when you were on. And Walt's, Mike Raines was on there, all kinds of people on there talking about what a great guy Walt is. And then from the post of you guys winning yesterday, all the respect for Walt in this industry is amazing. So enjoy that. Enjoy your win. And I hope I see y'all before January, but if not, January the 18th on Lake Gunnersville, I think could be the biggest bag we've ever seen weighed in. I'm excited about it already.
We are too, Kay.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Y'all have a great day.
All right, thank you. Bye.
There you go, guys. 2024 Alabama Bass Trail 100 champions on Wheeler Lake. Walt Roberts and Robert Greenberg, 2176, all smallmouth. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back with your Anglers of the Year, Josh Chapple and Paul Davis. Y'all stay tuned.
Nobody wants to run out of power when they're on the water. There is a better way. Introducing the Charge Marine Power Management Station from PowerPole that does the work of 3 devices: a traditional battery charger, a charge on the run, and an emergency start system. PowerPole Charge.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And I told y'all early on, we have a jam-packed show today. Right now, I'm introducing you to your 2024 Alabama Bass Trail 100 Anglers of the Year, Josh Chapple and Paul Davis. Welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast.
Thanks for having us.
How's that sound, Paul? Anglers of the Year, Alabama Bass Trail 100.
It's pretty nice. We've fished a lot of ABT stuff and never won AOY, and come close a couple of times. Been leading it, and have a bad tournament. But against that group of guys, I'm at work now. We both work. We both have families. A lot of those guys are pros. A lot of them, that's all they do is fish every day. So it means something to do it against those guys for sure.
ABT 100, 3 tournaments, not your traditional 5 in the Alabama Bass Trail. Josh, do you think it's a little harder to win it here than it is in the 100 or in the 100s than it is in the regular series?
Yes, but because you only got 3 tournaments. There's less room for error. There's not any room for error in either one of them. But I think that 100 boats is the best in the country, personally. If you just look, standing in the weigh-in line, I'm behind Scott, Mark. I fished against Paul has too all our lives. We fished Logan, Mark, Coast River against that's just those 2, and it's. That field is it is the best in the country, and if anybody wants to argue with me, we'll argue all day long. They're that good.
Well, I was looking through some of your history because, I actually mentioned you guys in a podcast about you kind of were a dark horse for me to win because you have had some good tournaments on Wheeler Lake. You don't necessarily have a lot of Tennessee River experience, but you have had some good experience in North Alabama. 2017, you were 3rd at our championship on Logan Martin. Not a big surprise there. 3rd place at Wheeler Lake back in 2018 during an ABT North division. 2021, you had a third place at an ABT on Lay, the first year, first tournament on the Alabama Bass Trail 100. Second place at Lake Martin in 2022. That may be the one that was heard around the world. 2020. Look, Paul rolled his eyes.
Yeah. That was a bad one.
Paul rolled his eyes. I'm sure it was boat number and it's my fault, but anyway, 2024, you had a win on Logan Martin, your first win on the Alabama Bass Trail on your home pond, had to be pretty special. And then to bring home the 2024 Angler of the Year in the ABT. So you guys have a long history on the Alabama Bass Trail. You have fished with us a long time and you've had some major success. So now you have not only been on the podium in all ABT North, ABT South, ABT 100s, but now you have an Angler of the Year on the ABT 100. So pretty accomplished team that for the most part just kind of flies under the radar. I mean, I don't hear from you guys a lot. Like you don't blow my phone up. You do in passing tell me that your boat number sucks, Paul, every once in a while. But for the most part, I don't hear from you guys a whole lot. You just kind of go about your business and fish, I guess.
Yeah. Just show up, practice, and try to catch them as good as we can, I guess.
Talk about practice. I know you guys fish in separate boats. We've talked about that on the Best Of show before. How many days of practice did you put into Wheeler Lake?
2.
But you
Yeah,
fished another, didn't y'all have another tournament last weekend before Wheeler Lake that kept you from coming up on the weekend?
Yeah, the Sylacauga Marine, the end of the year classic 2-day. Yeah.
Okay, so kept you from coming up to Wheeler. Going into Wheeler, you had an 11-point deficit behind Zeke Gossett, Ethan King, who you have to admit, a second place at Logan, a first place at Weiss. They were on fire. Like they were having that year that everybody talks about. How did you keep focused, or was Angler of the Year your focus, or was the win at Wheeler the focus?
I think it was more Angler of the Year. We practiced to find a backup plan. We tried to win it, of course, tried to find the fish to win it, but we also kept in the back of our mind, to not just bomb, just not to just go out and try to win it or bomb. We tried to have a backup plan in mind to, at least finish decent and make them beat us.
Okay. What part of the lake did y'all fish, if you don't mind me asking?
We fished the lower end, Elk River mainly. It seemed to be for us a little more consistent, but we knew you couldn't win in there. That was it's kind of aggravating going to do that because you can't. We didn't feel like we could win in Elk River in that area, but it was the most consistent bite throughout practice.
Okay. What did you feel like you needed to have, or was there a place in your mind that you felt like you needed to finish in order to win the Angler of the Year, Paul?
Against these guys, Zeke and Ethan, they've had a first and second. So, we could have won and, then finished 10th and they beat us. So, we just really tried to catch the biggest bag we thought we could, and just let the chips land where they land, But we were trying to catch maybe 15 pounds, maybe have 18 if everything went right. We still didn't think that would win, but that would, we tried to just give ourselves maybe a top 10 bag and then just see what happens really.
11 points is a lot of points going into that event. And both of you guys traditionally are Coosa River. You guys fish the Coosa. Ethan and Zeke fish the Coosa a lot. Even Murray and Tim, I know y'all were tied with them. They're more that Weiss Lake, Wadowee, Logan Martin type fishermen. And the season kind of set up for that. You had 2 Coosa River tournaments to start off with, and then bringing it to the Tennessee River. Did that play in your mind at all? That you were going to a not so familiar body of water?
To me, like we don't stay anywhere more than one weekend anymore. It just, we don't feel like home field advantage matters anymore because it doesn't. I know I mean, we won at Logan Martin, and you said, well, home field advantage matters. We haven't been back there but one time since we won, and that was in the Sylacauga last weekend. That is the first time we've been on the lake since, when was that? March, April? So no, I mean, I don't think about it anymore. I'm sure Paul don't. We travel so much that it doesn't matter anymore to us.
Okay. I like that. You talk about the field, and there's a guy that you guys room with a lot. I got to be at the dock with you and Wesley and Damien and Chad Hall and some others on Friday. And the word was, that they're all grouped up, that, there was a large contingency in that group that thought Wesley would go and win that tournament because he was on a certain area of fish. Talk about that younger group that's coming in, because we saw it in the ABT South with Connor and Caleb Miller. Wesley's gone on to fish the Bassmaster Elite Series, but still relatively young. He's very young to me, not as young as, to y'all, because you're a lot younger than me. But talk about that and how that plays into the Alabama Bass Trail now.
Yeah, I mean, the scoping's changed the game in fishing. I mean, everywhere. It's taken. We're not old, but we've been fishing together since we're in high school. So, I mean, we've got years of wisdom that we've learned, and the scope is just taking that. I mean, it's thrown all that wisdom away. That we've learned over the years. So you got guys like Justin Hamner in there. He's good at it. One of the best in the world probably, and the kids are hard to beat now. I mean, we see it on the weekend. I mean, we mainly fish just ABT now, but we fish some other trails, and these kids they're hard to beat now. I mean, it shows on like Elite Series. I mean, they're dominating that also. So it's all around just changed the game.
It has. We've seen that certainly in our trail. Wesley was one of the first that we saw to be very accurate with it, very productive with live scope, and we've seen that grow. I do want to talk a little bit more about your Wheeler Lake tournament, because you are Anglers of the Year, and that took the consistency throughout. I think you had a 5th place finish at Logan Martin, a 9th place finish at Wheeler, tied for 24th at 9th place at Weiss, and then tied for 24th at Wheeler. The winners, we just finished talking with them. They targeted smallmouth. What were you targeting when you were down in the Elk River area?
We were just kind of fishing what we grew up doing, just targeting largemouth, but I mean, just flipping trees, throwing a spinnerbait mostly, throwing a crankbait a little bit. It kind of fit our eye, but we knew that those Decatur Flats was where it was more than likely going to go down, but it's so big, and when you don't have a lot of time, we didn't feel like we could do any justice out there at all. We just had to find an area that we could get in and start fishing.
Was it crowded where you were?
No.
Okay.
We run through the fog and all that.
I was going to say,
it was that running in and out of there is pretty nasty with all the timber and all the log jams and stuff. So, but no, there was one, maybe 2 boats come in there, and they didn't come in there till later.
how long did the fog last down there? Because it seemed to be thicker on your end of the lake.
Shoot, Paul, was it right around lunch?
Yeah, it was there till probably 11:30 maybe before it started. So.
Did that affect your bite at all?
No, we started catching some pretty quickly. I mean, it changed a little bit from practice. We had to change what we were doing a little bit, but no, I mean, we started catching them pretty much when we started that morning. It took a little while to put what little bit we caught together, but no, they started biting. I mean, they were biting pretty much all day. It got worse at the end of the day when it got real calm and slick and sunny. It got worse.
We heard some guys out on the flats that said they felt like that the fog delayed their bite quite a bit, and that their early morning bite that they thought would be an hour-long flurry just never happened because they felt like the fog kind of kept that. I know Brian Stifler mentioned he's never caught fish in fog, and I think they were hoping.
We don't either. But I mean, it's not like we caught them in the fog. We caught one or two that we weighed in until it started clearing out, Paul. Is that right? Yeah.
That's probably right.
Yeah, when it started clearing out, they bit for a little bit, but no, we don't catch them in the fog either.
So going into the Alabama Bass Trail 100, with it being a limited number of tournaments, what is the mindset day one as opposed to mindset going into the third tournament? Does it change or is it always the same?
It's all, I mean, to us, if it's win or nothing really. I mean, I mean, we've done some math too, like in the South Division, you've got to average a top 25 in every single tournament to win Angler of the Year. So you might as well try to win them all. I mean, I felt like, and we talked about this a couple years ago when we were leading going into Alabama River, we kind of fished to not mess it up, and we made a mistake there. I mean, you got to go catch them every single time in the Alabama Bass Trail. I mean, we call it the Alabama Blasting Trail, and you just, the mindset is to win every time. It really is.
Paul, you agree with that?
I do, yeah. I mean, we try to win. I mean, we've kind of changed our fishing style over the past few years, and yeah, we're going for the win now. I mean, you gotta catch them against those guys. I mean, they're the best, in the country to me, and they're gonna catch them every time. So you might as well. You can't just lay up. You gotta go for it.
Well, I have to ask, did you have your families back home? Were they watching? Were they tuned in and dialed in to see what happened?
Oh yeah,
They were, yeah.
Yep, for
That's
sure.
what Walt and Robert that won, they were getting texts and calls as I'm standing there talking to them. Their phones are going off, and it was pretty cool to see. How was your phones after you left Ingalls Harbor on Saturday?
A lot of congratulation texts, a bunch of them
Yep.
calls and congratulations.
Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I've said this, and I said it on the segment just before. If we did away with TV altogether, which I don't want to do, the live stream of the weigh-in and the on the water stuff, the comments and everything that we get from that, and the fact that you guys get to enjoy that, congratulations, and all those text messages and phone calls afterwards because of the live coverage, to me is just that's the best to me. I love that. I love it. I really love the weigh-in part because I don't have to do a whole lot with the live on that part. So I really love the weigh-in part. So I want to talk to you. 2025 is just around the corner. I mean, I think we're just about 2.5 months away from kicking off down at Lake Martin. I think you guys are signed up for the South Division, but we got Lake Gunnersville first in January on Lake Gunnersville. Could be the biggest bag ever weighed in an Alabama Bass Trail tournament. I mean, 25 pounds, I think, got third place this weekend at Lake Gunnersville. So could crest that 32-pound bag. What's next for Chapple and Davis? What's the next goal? You've got Angler of the Year. You've got to win. What's the next goal?
Well, maybe Angler of the Year for the South.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a tournament in next year's schedule? Let's say 100 schedule. Gunnersville, Lake Eufaula, and Wilson. Is one of those lakes just like got your attention?
Yeah, all of them, because you're gonna have to catch the shit out of it. Sorry. It's gonna take. We were talking about the other day. I looked at him. I said, "It's gonna take. It's possibly it could take 30 in every single one of those to win." I mean, I guess. I mean, Wilson maybe not, but I guess it could. I mean, I've never even seen the lake, but you always hear how good it really is, and I mean, if you fall as good as it has been lately, I mean, every one of them could take 30. I mean, that's the 100s next year is going to be a daggum swinging contest. That's what I'm looking for.
I think the winner, it would be really cool if we could see a winner, have over 90 pounds for the year. That'd be really cool. I love the Wilson. I love ending it at Wilson. It is one of those real small bodies of water like Wadawi. That's something we don't visit all the time. So I'm excited about that. Is there one on the regular series that you've got your eyes on that's maybe circled on your calendar? You've got Lake Martin, Logan Martin, Alabama River, Eufaula, and then Lake.
Alabama River bothers me because we never really catch them there, and I don't know why. And I like going there. Paul, I'm pretty sure Paul does too. I mean, it's a little different. It's a little harder sometimes because of the boat traffic and stuff like that. But for some reason, we just don't catch them there. But I don't know. Probably that one, just because it's aggravating. We haven't caught them there yet.
What about you, Mr. Paul?
Yeah, we caught some in practice there over the years, and they usually seem to they'll mess with the water. Last year, I think it flooded some. The water rose a lot, and there, of course, Logan Martin. When is it? In February?
March
March.
29th.
I mean, that one should be pretty good. I don't know, I like them all, so I can't even tell you the lakes in the month. I mean, it doesn't really, I mean, it's ABT, so we're going to sign up and fish it, and we don't care. I mean, we like them all. We like all the lakes. We like all the times of year, so
Well,
we look forward to all of them.
I think it's going to be a fun schedule. I know that it has to feel good. Honestly, and I hate to even say this because you never want to hear this, but you guys have kind of been that team everybody's been expecting to have an AOY under their belt. Like, honestly, every time we talk about it, because of your unique history on the Alabama Bass Trail, we've wondered when it was going to happen. So you have that off your back. You have a win off your back. It's got to feel a little bit better, like just knowing that those accomplishments are done, but there's still, you want to win in the South. You want to win. Well, you got to win in the South. You got to want to Angler of the Year there. So maybe
we would
talk.
Like to win one of those 100s for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The black trophy, the silver trophy is a little bit bigger than that black trophy. Yeah. I got to ask you this, Josh. You told me when you got the second place trophy at the ABT 100 on Lay that you set it by the door to remind yourself that you suck. Have you moved that now and put the belt there so you can remind yourself that, hey, I did pretty good this year?
They're all in my garage. Yeah, I did move it when we won.
When you won?
It's been moved. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good deal. Good deal. Well, I want to thank y'all for fishing the Alabama Bass Trail. I know you've taken a couple years off and been back on or whatever, but I do appreciate y'all fishing the Alabama Bass Trail. I do hope you get better boat numbers this year, Paul. I'll talk.
I don't care.
I'll talk to the people that assign those and see if I can't work some magic. But now that Daniel and John take care of all that, I don't really have much to do with it. I just show up now. So, But anyway, I do appreciate y'all being on the podcast. Congratulations again. The 2024 Alabama Bass Trail 100 Anglers of the Year, Josh Chapple and Paul Davis. They won with 265 points, just 3 points over Scott Canterbury, Terry Stevens, and Zeke Gossett and Ethan King. Had to really pull one out right there at Wheeler Lake. Congratulations, guys. Y'all have a great day, and thanks for being with us.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. There you go. Your 2024 Alabama Bass Trail 100 Anglers of the Year, Josh Chapple and Paul Davis, signed up again for the ABT 100s and the ABT South. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back, and we will finish this thing up on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. Y'all stay tuned.
Big banks only care about one thing: ROI. So when it comes to your small business, you can expect a big no. At AmFirst, we don't just invest in your business. We invest in you and your goals. With great rates on loans, lines of credit to help you grow, and business checking accounts. Because at AmFirst, business is personal.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. New winners on the Alabama Bass Trail, new Anglers of the Year on the Alabama Bass Trail. Two great group of anglers. A lot of fun today on the podcast. A lot going on in the industry. I think right before we got ready to go to the ABT 100, the Bassmasters Elite Series announcement came out that they would have no entry fees. So I've gotten a lot of comments about it. I've read a lot of comments. I've talked to a couple anglers. Of course, we had a few of those anglers at the ABT 100 this weekend, some being very candid in their comments and some being very guarded in their comments. But the one thing I heard from an angler specific was the minute I pull out of my house to go to the St. Lawrence, I'm down $2,000 in expenses. If I pull a camper, pull my boat, I'm looking at every bit of $2,000 in expenses. So, and that's not really even counting his entry fee. So, barring that, go there, practice for 3 days, compete for 2 days, get the 40th place check at $500. I've basically made on 63 hours of practice and competition $7 an hour. That was hard to swallow. And I can understand. I've seen a lot of the comparisons that the guys have put online. I get the entry fee situation, and I've heard from the group text, and I've heard from that I'm a part of, to other texts saying, "Oh, all professional athletes should be paid. All everyone in the field should receive a check." I seem to think 40 places is a lot to pay in a 108 boat field. We pay 20 in the ABT 100. A very stout payout for, $100,000 that we take in. And I'm not comparing the Bassmaster Elite Series to the ABT 100. So if you're going to complain about that, or you're going to gripe about that, move on to something else. That's not what I'm doing. That NFL players don't pay to play football. NBA players don't pay to play basketball. Why should we have to pay if we're professional anglers? And it boils down to dollars. And I don't know how anyone can have that argument that doesn't see that. It boils down to dollars. No one pays to come to a fishing tournament. NFL tickets are $75 to $350 a ticket on an average. NBA tickets, $200 to $700 on average. Yes, there's some cheaper tickets an hour before the game standing outside. But on an average, if you look at buying season tickets, for a Titans game, even if they are not any good, tickets are not cheap. And we do not charge that in bass fishing. If you go to the Super Bowl of the NFL, or if you go to the championship at the NBA or the World Series that just got over, and you think you're going to walk in there for free, you're crazy. You're not. There are no ticket prices for that. You go to the Bassmaster Classic, which is coined the Super Bowl of bass fishing. You don't pay to go through the expo. You don't pay to go to the weigh-in. That is money left on the table by these organizations for probably a pretty good reason. If we were asked to pay for something we've been given for so long for free, we're not going to pay for it. And you'll go from 99,000 visitors that come through that showcase to probably closer to 10,000 that are going to pay to come. There's no licensing, apparel licensing. How many times have you or someone in your family walked in with an Alabama or an Auburn or a Kansas City or a Tennessee Titans jersey on? Look around when you're walking around in Tuscaloosa or in Auburn at the amount of jerseys that you see on little kids and grown-ups. That apparel licensing goes into those programs. That is large dollars that are invested in that. And then if you want to look at golf and you have Jaguar or Mercedes or Bentleys or whatever that are putting up the money for those tournaments, you're talking millions of dollars. There are very few, if any, $1 million sponsors in the bass fishing world. So it all comes down to dollars. I'm sure that some of the monies that is taken in from co-anglers and opens have gone into that pot, because I think there's roughly somewhere around $1 million that Bass keeps out of the entry fees from the opens. If I figured the payout correctly and looked at the entry fees correctly, it's a little over $1 million. I'm sure that goes in. I don't know how much sponsor money Bass puts into the payout. Don't even begin to know. But I do know that anglers get on their calculators and they figure all of this, and they feel like they know what those are. From the side of things where BASS is coming from, I can speak to that as well, in that we take our entry fees via credit card, and the Alabama Bass Trail loses $25,000 to $30,000 a year because of credit card fees. Most companies, including Bass, I just registered all of our teams for our Bass Team Championship, included a $15 credit card processing fee. You'll likely see that happen on the Alabama Bass Trail over the next year. Companies can't continue to lose $25,000 and $30,000 in bank fees because of a service we provide for y'all. If you figure that in the amount we take in, subtract that out, our percentage that we pay out go up to about 115, 116%, because it is an expense that we have that you guys don't see. So when you're taking in entry fees and you're subtracting out payout, you don't have all of the numbers that need to go in that equation because you don't see what they lose from that. Maybe Bass charges a fee that I don't know about, but we in the past have not. I don't know that we'll be able to continue to do that in the current economy. It is something that we're going to have to look at in our next budgeting year. So I honestly, I wouldn't have done it this way, but Bass didn't ask me, and rightfully so. They don't care how I run my business. They don't care how I think they should run their business. But I think if there was an X pot of money that was $2 million or so that they wanted to give back to the anglers and do so, I think leaving the entry fees as they were, or possibly lowering them a little, and then adding that $2-3 million that they have into that and paid the top 30 people would have been a much better solution than paying 40 places in a 108 boat tournament. I think 1 in 5 has always been the standard in bass fishing. Everyone's always wanted you to pay high and pay for performance. So I would have done it a little bit differently, but again, they didn't ask me. Chase Anderson didn't pick the phone up and call me and say, hey, what would you do here? Because they don't care, and that's okay. But obviously they didn't pick up the phone and talk to anyone that it was going to affect, or they would have not gotten the outrageous response that they got throughout social media. So that being said, lot going on in the fishing world. And I think that this is just opening up the conversation for a lot more things. So, but as we do every time on the Alabama Bass Trail, we're going to close things out a certain way. 26 days for Alabama Bass Trail, 100 anglers to pay their fees and get in the 2025 season. And there are 45 days left for the ABT anglers to get their payments in and be fully qualified for the Alabama Bass Trail 2025 season. So you should be getting a text message from our team just any day reminding you of your team ID and PIN numbers. As we have people bow out of the season, we'll reach out to those of you who are on the waiting list and fill those positions. So keep your phones open, and we will try to get those filled as early as possible. December 20th is the final day to pay your payments on the Alabama Bass Trail 2025 series. So make sure that you're prepared to do that on or before December the 20th. I do want to thank Walt Roberts, Robert Greenberg, Josh Chapple, and Paul Davis for being my guest on the show today. Great year on the Alabama Bass Trail. I want to personally thank our team, John, Daniel, the entire Alabama Bass Trail team, our live team, Luke, Jason, Darian, Ben, Jared, Herbie, Thomas, Kenny, Jared, Russell. Gosh, I know I'm going to forget somebody. Matt Lee for filling in a few times, Vince, Robert, all of them back in the studio. Thank you to Angela for attending the last couple of events with us to get fully engrossed in the Alabama Bass Trail. Thank you to all the sponsors for the 2024 season. Thank you to all the host cities for continuing to believe in the Alabama Bass Trail. Thank you to everyone who has commented, liked, applauded, anything for the Alabama Bass Trail in the 2024 season. We do have a few more podcasts ahead of us, but for the 2024 season, thank you so much for participating. Thank you to all of those who have signed up for the 2025 season. I do hope you will subscribe, rate, and review the Alabama Bass Trail podcast on your favorite podcasting app. And I hope to see you somewhere in the great state of Alabama soon. Thank you for tuning in, and y'all have a blessed day. And as Big Daddy would always say, get outdoors.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.